Hey everyone, how are you doing? It's Excoundrel here. I hope you're having a lovely day. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about some esports analysis. You know, I love to do esports analysis on my YouTube channel, and we're going to cover some more of it today. This time on the European side of things, with a European tournament hosted by Team Singularity, presented by Trovo. I'll link the Trovo channel in the description below, and also Team Singularity's Twitter page. The Trovo channel, you can go back and watch all of the past VODs. I'd recommend that you definitely watch the final day, because it had some really good Wild Rift played on it. We followed Tribe Gaming a lot. They didn't make it to the finals. I'm going to be covering the first game of the finals, because there is a team that I genuinely believe are one of the strongest teams in Europe right now, maybe even one of the strongest teams in the West, and that is Ghost Gaming. They played such incredible Wild Rift in this tournament. Now, before we get into it, if you enjoy the content, please feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thanks to G2A for sponsoring the channel. Okay, let's dive into it straight up with draft, and then we're just going to go through the VOD as normal. I'm only going to cover one game on this because A, my tongue is hurting because I still have some ulcers on it. It's not very nice, but I still have some ulcers, so I've got to be careful of my tongue. And B, some of the other games were not as interesting in terms of like what's happening on the map. So composition-wise, you've got a very strong composition drafted by Ghost Gaming. You've got the Lulu Olaf combo, which is very strong in the meta right now. You've got Kennen, which Ghost Gaming were one of the only teams to put a very high priority on Kennen, and it worked out. You know, obviously, you know, Ghost Gaming ended up winning the tournament, but Kennen's still shown to be very strong in a competitive setting. They went for Kai'Sa, who has a little bit more agency and mobility. So Kai'Sa is a better blind pick, I think, as an AD carry, because, you know, if you pick Jinx and they pick Jarvan, then you're just asking to get locked down and die. And then they also picked the Ahri, which is interesting because they picked the Ahri after they'd already seen the Orianna and the Jarvan. And so the Ahri came in as a response to the Orianna and the Jarvan. Now, Ahri's not going to scale as well, but she has got single target pick potential, and she's got the mobility, so that should she ever get locked down by the Jarvan ultimate, she can use a single dash and get out of it, and she doesn't have to rely on her flash to be able to escape the Jarvan ultimate. So, very interesting composition, very strong team fight capabilities with the Kennen, the Lulu, and the Olaf, with the Kai'Sa mixed in there. The Ahri just floats around the outside of a team fight looking for picks. So very strong teamfight composition, particularly strong at level 5 when Olaf and Lulu have their ultimate as well as Kennen, so you're expecting this team to want to fight for first drakes. Then you have a look at Nova Esports, and Nova Esports are running, I'm going to have to just make sure I mute the, I'm going to make sure I mute the VOD actually, because otherwise you're going to hear the hear me and TJ talking. On the other side, you've got Orianna Jarvan, which is an incredibly tried and tested combo. They also have a strong team fight. However, they have more scaling elements to their team. So whilst their team fight utility is strong at level 5, their scaling maybe puts them behind for the first dragon fight of the game. And one of the main reasons that we're seeing dragon fights being so important in Wild Rift is the use of the Mastermind rune, which gives you extra gold for taking objectives, which includes towers and I believe like Baron and dragons. So grouping up for first dragon, especially if your carries take the Mastermind rune and your jungler takes the Mastermind rune, you can take those objectives really quickly, and also you can get a load of gold for grouping around them. So that's why you often see a lot of fighting at the first dragon, which is obviously something that can cause massive snowballs in favor of one team or the other. But this comp here, the Nova comp, it scales. So whilst, you know, you could have a good team fight at level 5, classically Ahri is a bit more, classically Camille is a bit more of a split pusher, and for the most part, the Orianna and Corki damage will scale up. Wow, you can see my face. I'm going to skip forward a little bit so we don't have to look at my face. Okay, so we're 40 seconds into the game here. Olaf started topside, Jarvan started topside, so we had a double topside start, which means when our junglers appear, they are likely going to be contesting for the same River Scuttler, which is the bottom side River Scuttler. So there are a couple of ways you can approach jungle pathing in the early game. For instance, I've seen Shyvanas go red into Raptors, so Razorbeaks into Krugs, into bot side Scuttle to avoid fighting for one of the Scuttles. Or I've seen Shyvanas go full red side clear directly to top Scuttle if they think that the enemy is going to contest them at bottom Scuttle. So again, jungle pathing is very important. Usually what happens is you make a decision between clearing one side of your jungle or doing both the buffs and then ending up going for the scuttler that's on the same side as your buff. Now, it looks like Jarvan had some information about where Olaf was starting. He decided to do his blue buff and then path back upwards towards his topside scuttle because he knew that he wasn't going to be in a good position to fight a Jarvan. Now, this is a really nice gank from Ghost Reaper because he flashes in and he burns the exhaust of the Olaf. Of the Braum. So that's a really good start because now he can just come back to that lane. And Braum is going to be a relatively easy target for him because of the fact that he has that true damage and he can just burst them down. So Ghost Reaper had a really good start to the game. He cleared a lot of his jungle out. He now only has the Krugs left to clear. And he also picked up the bot side scuttle as well as burning off Flash and an exhaust. So that's a really, really, really proactive start for an Olaf. And just did it through good vision control. And unfortunately, Vex did not put any vision control down on the bottom side of the map. A really good first back for Orianna. She picks up her tier and her lost chapter. That's a good back for Orianna. If she's able to farm up well enough now, she should be able to finish her Archangel staff or buy the first dragon, which would be a nice bonus. But as I just said about before, Sweeper comes out for Ghost Reaper. He's able to just return straight back to bot. And honestly, this is a bit of a fault from Nova. They were far too aggressive in the lane, whilst having absolutely zero vision. And actually there is no excuse for it because Corki had wards. So Corki could have warded. Now you can see actually they also went for a tower dive. Really great roam coming out from King Sion the Ahri. And now they've punished the Corki. And this is a great little group up because essentially with the Lulu, you're going to be able to take a first turret really easily. Now Orianna is rotating down, but it's a little too little too late. You will also notice that Garen, so it's not actually a Garen, it's Kennen, but he's called Garen. He saved his ultimate. So even though he got ulted by Jarvan, he didn't waste his ultimate. And so Jarvan's used his, but Kennen only just had to flash out and it wasn't forced to use his ultimate in this scenario, which is actually a really, really big deal. And I would always recommend if you're playing Kennen top lane, avoid using your ultimate as much as physically possible. And the reason I say that, or at least before the first dragon fight. Avoid using your ultimate before the first dragon fight because it is such an impactful dragon fight ultimate that you do want to have access to it for that particular engage. Now, interestingly, around 10 seconds to dragon, no one is making any major setups around this particular objective. And actually, you're seeing Olaf go for a full bot side clear. Now, I assume this is because Ghost Gaming feel relatively confident having taken that first turret on the bot side of the map. They have priority and don't need to rush this. Now, what's happening here is it looks like Nova are pretty well aware that they don't want to fight for first dragon, which I think is a really heads-up play. But remember, Kennen hasn't used his ultimate here. So going for a dive on Kennen who hasn't used his ultimate, that might be a little bit of an issue. Now, I don't think this was the best ultimate that Garen could have gone for. I understand why he did it though. I don't want you to flame the Kennen for that ultimate because what he was actually trying to do was clear the wave and prevent it from getting to turret. He wanted to make it so the turret was going to help him out in that dive, and he was trying to do so by clearing the wave. But look at what Ghost Gaming were able to do. They'd set the wave up in the mid lane, so much so that by the time they'd taken Dragon, they saw the top lane dive, they were able to immediately cross map and get something else. And what they got was the most impactful turret in the game, which was that mid lane tier 1. So now Ghost Gaming find themselves 4,000 or 3,500 gold in the lead, and there has been almost no engages. They got the dragon for free, and they also managed to pick up the mid lane tier 1 off the back of what was attempted and successful tower dive. But clearly Nova were able to get the top lane tower in response, which is actually I think Nova made the correct play here, right? They're not contesting Drake. So how do you basically get something out of not contesting Drake? Well, you go to the top of the map and you get the turret. That's the best thing that you can do. If you can't team fight Drake, which Nova's team comp is not particularly good in the early game at team fighting, then you want to try and take something on the other side of the map. And I think that was the correct decision for Nova. Now, Garen is on this Kennen. He's kind of been a bit of a punching bag for the Nova composition. But what you're seeing happen here is a very classic move from Ghost Gaming. Once you've got Dragon, and once you've got the bot lane tier 1, there's nothing for you to take on the bottom side of the map. You rotate your bot lane to top before the Rift Herald spawns, and then either you pressure out the top lane tier 1, or you just go for Rift Herald once it's spawned. Now, you can see what we've got in the top lane is complete priority because it's a 2 versus 1. Of course, in a 2 versus 1, you're going to have priority. And that has allowed Olaf, with absolutely no one trying to pressure him, to go for this Rift Herald for free. Now, again, Nova are attempting to make cross-map plays, which I think is the correct decision. They are just trading another tower on the bottom side of the map. So this is actually, I think, really, really good play from Nova. But again, look at this. This is not an ultimate to engage. This is an ultimate to clear the wave from Garen. He's using the ultimate to clear the wave, and then obviously the rest of his team has responded. So he wasn't going all in with that ultimate. He was using it to clear the wave so they couldn't get the turret, and then the rest of his team responded super, super well. So I think Nova had the good idea in that scenario. I think they were just a little bit too hyper aggressive on that second tier turret, and I don't think they really realized how easy it was for Ghost Gaming to respond. And honestly, I'd actually almost like to go back and have a quick look at the map movements that we just saw there. Okay, so we go back a little further in the future. Okay, so watch this, right? Okay, so top lane tower is getting taken here, right? They're going to take the Rift Herald, that gets taken up. They're going to get top lane tower free. Immediately, everyone is backing. Ahri doesn't back. She just walks across the map. So Ahri doesn't back, and this is what Garen goes in and does. Clears the wave, keeps the Jarvan locked up. Obviously didn't go 100% all in there because he would have died. And Ahri continues to move down the map. So it was just a really, really, really good play, team coordination-wise. And this is what Ahri can be good at. Ahri is incredibly good at roaming. And again, you saw there, Jarvan tried to alter. She just uses one ult to get out of the Jarvan Cataclysm. And there was no way that she was getting locked down. And also was able to continue the chase as well. So this is just a really, really excellent piece of cross-map play from Ghost Gaming. And I think maybe Nova just weren't aware of how quickly they would be able to get responded to by the Ghost Gaming roster. And now they are 7,000 gold in the lead. How did they do this? And they have barely team fighted, right? Up until that team fight there, Ghost Gaming have had like 2 kills. They didn't team fight at all, realistically, throughout the entire game. What they've done is they have grouped up for objectives. They set up a really good tower dive bot. They took bot lane tier 1. They took the dragon because they had priority in the bot lane because that wave was shoving up towards the tier 2. They then used the top lane tower dive to immediately group and push the mid lane tier 1. They then rotated their bot lane top as the Rift Herald was spawning to ensure priority because obviously they saw there was a big group up bot from Nova. So they were just essentially cross-mapping. And what I mean by cross-mapping, you might have heard me use that word a lot, is when the enemy does something on one side of the map, you go to the opposite side of the map and try and get something of equal value or more. And in this case, in this game here, Ghost Gaming were able to get more every time. So we're now coming up to the second dragon in the game. And this is obviously the mountain dragon. This can be of relative importance. Now, Corki has got the package. I think that Nova are doing the right thing. I don't think that they can contest this. I think they're too weak. Vejos is attempting to, but I genuinely think at this point you just have to clear your waves and farm. And if you have a look at what Clemares is doing on the Camille, he's threatening tier 2s. Like this is the best thing that I think Nova could go for. In fact, if anything, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more setup from Jarvan to head towards that top side and get a tier 2. Like Clemares is very close to picking up this tier 2. I think he ends up giving up his life for it, right? He basically trades his life for a tier 2, which I actually think is the correct decision. He actually uses the ultimate to avoid the CC, and actually he's super close from getting out here. He just gets caught by the Kaiser, but he would have actually, had he dodged that, I think he would have been able to get out of that scenario. Ahri didn't have ultimate, and obviously then we just get the Olaf inting it for some reason in the mid lane. Vejos did a really good job of preventing himself from getting blown up there. But that was actually a good play from Clemares, and it was just a little unlucky that he got caught out. That is what I want to see more teams doing with Camille and Fiora, because that's what Camille and Fiora are strong at. And especially when you know that you're this far behind in gold, like the best thing that you can do is try and claim as much standing gold in the map as possible. And of course, towers are what we call standing gold. They just exist, and it's easy for you to take that income. Okay, so at this stage in the game, what can Nova do to get out of this hole? Well, they have a lot of scaling. They have a Corki, they have an Orianna. Like, you just need to get towards 3 items or more, and suddenly you're starting to dish out a lot of damage. But this is sensible right now from Ghost Gaming. What they are doing is just clearing as much vision around the Baron as possible, because obviously they want to threaten the Baron. Look at Clemares, though. Clemares is actually doing the correct thing here. What I don't want to see Clemares do is teleport to the Baron, because I think they just lose the fight. Now, you have to play this very carefully, right? Clemaris is going to teleport here, right? Yeah, Clemaris is going to teleport here. You do have to play this very carefully, but Ghost Gaming did something really clever. They were just baiting. They weren't attempting to go for the 50-50 steal here. They were just baiting. Now, Clemaris dives into the back line. Garen is taken very low, but he somehow manages to escape. This is absolutely insane right now from Ghost Gaming. Like the micro-kiting of everybody just to be able to keep that Kennen alive at the end of the fight. And that shockwave was nutty, by the way. Imagine if Vejos had more AP. Like, that would have been potentially a one fight for Nova. I think it was a little bit of a messy engage from Ghost Gaming, in all honesty, but they're just that far ahead in gold that it doesn't matter, because when you're this far ahead in gold, you can afford to have messy engages. But they basically, Ghost Gaming were just trying to bait the teleport. And that's one of the big things that I think a lot of teams make mistakes on, is that when they commit to Baron, sometimes they'll just like hard commit to Baron, when really what you could be doing is forcing a teleport, or forcing the enemy to engage on you. And they burnt the teleport of Clemaris. Clemaris wasn't able to get that tier 2 in the side lane. And that was what they wanted. And as soon as the Clemaris teleported, I guess Garen saw an opportunity to go for the engage. It wasn't the cleanest engage ever, but they were so far ahead in gold that it didn't actually matter that it was so clean or not. So the main takeaways from this game so far is just, how Ghost Gaming were able to, without actually getting many kills, build up such a significant lead that when it came to team fights, they were completely outclassing Nova. Because they were able to, just through pure macro map pressure, essentially get enough items and enough gold advantage to go into a team fight versus Nova, and Nova had no chance of winning. That was maybe that was the first big team fight. There was a couple of like smaller skirmishes, but that was the first full-on team fight coming out from Ghost Gaming. And the advantages that they had built up just meant that it was just so unbelievably hard for Nova to actually even compete, that there was nothing they could do. And obviously they're only at 2 items. You compare the item spikes in the enemy team. Kai'Sa is 3.5 compared to Corki's 2. You've got almost 4 completed items for the Ahri. Ahri just picked up a lost chapter and has then gone straight to Rabadon's death cap, which she's just finished now. So she's 3.5 items. There is a whole item and a half advantage for your main carries on Ghost Gaming. And the Ocean Drake is up. Again, something that Nova just cannot contest. And, the Jarvan is not a bad pick into Olaf, by the way. If you're looking for a pick that can work okay into Olaf, Jarvan is okay, because obviously Olaf's ultimate can't run through the Jarvan wall. So if you just ult Olaf in a fight, like, he's stuck there unless he flashes out. So a lot of people like to pick Jarvan into Olaf for that reason, in the sense that, his ultimate does kind of counter. Now, that again, another big advantage here for Ghost Gaming, and unfortunately Nova in the position where they kind of have to contest the Baron at this point. I reckon Garen is looking for another engage with his ultimate. Oh, that was close. I think Garen wanted to flash across the wall. That could have very easily been a steal. But unfortunately, again, we are just so far ahead in gold right now for Ghost Gaming. Oh my goodness, it's a slaughter. It's a slaughter. And now they've got the Baron as well. So it was just a good smite. I think Nova had no other choice, because I think if they lost that Baron, they'd lost the game anyway. Because obviously Ghost Gaming would have been able to then just push every lane down. And at this point, you've got Baron, you've got big death timers. It's a 1 game for Ghost Gaming. But, like, the early game was so clean. Like, the early game of this team was just so absolutely clean. I cannot even tell you. Like, they were just cross-mapping every time, rotating like a boss. They were just taking objectives off the map and getting a huge gold lead, but without actually ever really having to fight. And that coordinated tower dive, it was all set up from the early game. You gank level 4, you gank early, burn the Braum flash. Do the scuttler, come back, gank again, kill the Braum. Ahri rotates to level 5, you dive the Corki, you get bot lane tier 1. Beautifully coordinated tower dive that was set up from the early gank. You take Dragon for free because you know that the Nova team won't contest you because their team comp isn't that good. And it's not worth dying for it's not worth trying to steal a Cloud Drake for most of the time. You rotate top with your bot lanes, you force a 2v1 into Clemaris on the Camille. You take top lane tier 1 and you take the Rift Herald. So you've just claimed 4 neutral objectives. And also, when the top lane tower dive came out, immediately after Dragon, you took the mid lane tier 1. So you've taken 5 neutral objectives in the space of about 6 minutes, which has catapulted your gold lead, and you've only got 2 kills. Clean gaming from Ghost Gaming, and I think they are probably the best team in Europe. And anyway, if you enjoyed the content, again, loads of tournaments hopefully taking place over the next few months in Europe, and I'll continue to break down esports games. I might break down some more games from this tournament, but this was one that I think was just a pure example of really clean play from a very, very talented team.